Have you ever asked yourself why you feel unseen, unheard, or unvalued by the people around you? Why your presence is met with apathy? Why your words are interrupted mid-sentence, as if they lack weight? Why your efforts are noticed only when they serve others, and forgotten the moment they don't? Why do you give so much and get so little? You might be that person who always shows up, the one who says yes, even when you're tired to your bones, who smiles to keep the peace, who forgives too soon, who swallows your truth because silence feels safer than conflict. But what do you receive in return? Disinterest, dismissal, disrespect. And here's the hardest part. Deep down, you know something is wrong. You feel a quiet resentment, a longing to be treated with dignity. But you don't know where to begin. You don't know how to say, enough. So you keep hoping that one day people will finally notice your kindness, your sacrifices, your loyalty. But that day never comes. Why? Because you are still waiting for respect to be given to you, when, in reality, it must first be claimed by you. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once wrote that the most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. And maybe that's where you are, trapped in a future where people see your worth, while your present remains invisible. Respect is not gifted, it's reflected, and the reflection always begins within. This video isn't here to offer cliches or easy advice. It's here to take you somewhere most people avoid, within yourself, because that's where the pattern begins, and that's where it must be broken. If you're tired of being taken for granted, misunderstood, or stepped on, it's time to look at what you're unconsciously telling the world about your value. Let's begin there. The world isn't as indifferent as it seems. Often, it simply mirrors back the version of yourself you present to it. When you stay silent in the face of rudeness, when you accept being overlooked, when you act as if your needs are an inconvenience, you're sending a message, not just to others, but to yourself. This is who I am. This is what I accept. And the world listens, not to your words, but to your actions. This isn't about blame. It's about responsibility. Because while you didn't choose the wounds that shaped you, you are now responsible for the healing that frees you. Maybe somewhere in childhood, you learned that being good meant being quiet, that love was earned by staying agreeable, that to belong, you had to shrink. So you adapted. You smiled when you were hurting. You helped when you were exhausted. You agreed when you wanted to scream. And over time, your authentic self was buried beneath a mask of politeness. But here's what philosophy teaches us. Authenticity is the foundation of respect. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, believed that dignity comes not from how others treat you, but from how you treat yourself. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts tell you that your voice doesn't matter, your presence doesn't matter, then the world will echo that belief." Respect, like dignity, must be practiced internally before it can be experienced externally. You may believe that by being endlessly giving, you'll eventually be seen as worthy. But this is a lie. People don't respect martyrs. They use them. The truth is hard. The more you try to prove your value, the more you affirm you don't believe in it. Those who are grounded in self-worth don't hustle for approval. They don't perform goodness like a play. They simply are. And the world adjusts. Now, let me ask you something. Why are you still trying to earn your place in the lives of people who barely show up in yours? Could it be that you've mistaken approval for love, that you've confused acceptance with respect? Real respect begins when you no longer fear being disliked, when you no longer betray yourself for the comfort of others. When you stop asking, will they be mad if I say no? And start asking, what will it cost me if I say yes? It's not that boundaries are hard to set. It's that you've been trained to feel guilty for setting them. That guilt, that discomfort, is the price of unlearning. And you must be willing to pay it. Saying no for the first time feels like a betrayal, but it isn't a betrayal of others. It's a reunion with yourself. You're not cruel for choosing yourself. You're not heartless for needing rest. You're not selfish for wanting reciprocity. But you have to stop proving and start protecting. Protect your time. Protect your energy. Protect your peace. Because the world doesn't give medals for self-abandonment. Let's go even deeper. What part of you is afraid to be firm? Where does that fear live? In psychology, Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we suppress because they once made us feel unsafe or unloved. Your assertiveness, your anger, your boldness. Maybe those traits were punished or shamed, so you buried them. But here's the truth. They didn't die. They went underground, and they show up now as anxiety, people-pleasing, and quiet resentment. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your power, waiting to be reowned. And until you integrate it, until you say, I am allowed to take up space, you will continue to live small. This is why new jobs feel the same, why new friendships repeat old patterns, why even love starts to feel like a performance, because the script hasn't changed, and that script is you. The goal here isn't to become unkind, it's to become whole. Whole people can love without losing themselves. They can help without being drained. They can listen without being silenced. So how do you begin? You begin by breaking the contract you made with the world that said, I will be everything you need and nothing that you don't like. You write a new contract, one that says, I am not here to be convenient. I am here to be complete. And yes, some people will walk away. Let them. Because the people who only value you when you say yes never valued you, only your compliance. Real respect is earned not by what you give others, but by what you refuse to give up about yourself. Start small. Say no to one thing today that feels wrong in your body. Speak up once when your voice trembles. Let someone be disappointed in your boundary and realize you survived. That is self-respect. That is power. You're not here to be everyone's peacekeeper. You're here to be your own protector. And that begins not with a fight, but with a choice. Are you ready to stop hoping for respect and start creating it? Then say it with me. Quietly, firmly, honestly. I will not betray myself again. Because self-respect isn't just the root of dignity. It is the beginning of freedom. You might wonder, how did it come to this? How did your identity become entangled with being agreeable? When did your needs become secondary? When did your silence become your language? The answer is subtle. It didn't happen all at once. It was shaped by moments. A comment here, a rejection there. The time someone told you that anger is ugly, that crying makes you weak, that being too much means you'll end up alone. So, you learned to edit yourself. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. That tribe may have been your family, your school, your culture. And to be accepted by the tribe, you gave up parts of yourself. But the price of constant acceptance is spiritual exile. You've wandered far from your essence. Now is the time to return." Let's be clear. Being kind is not your flaw. Caring is not your failure. But when kindness becomes your cage, it's no longer compassion. It's fear. And fear is a poor foundation for self-worth. There's a reason why people respect those who are unapologetically themselves. It's not arrogance, it's clarity. They've decided who they are, and that decision carries weight. So who have you decided to be? Maybe you've been floating, becoming who others want, depending on the situation. Changing masks so often that you forgot your own face. It's time to remember. And that remembering begins with truth-telling. When you tell yourself the truth about what hurts, what drains, what angers, what suffocates, you step out of the role of the invisible caretaker and into the role of the conscious creator. And this, according to existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, is where freedom lies. Not in escaping responsibility, but in embracing it. You are not merely the product of your past. You are also the author of your present. Now let's get even more honest. You've likely held back your truth to keep others comfortable. You've chosen harmony over honesty, peace over presence. But here's the paradox. The peace you protect out there comes at the cost of the war you start in here. Inside, resentment builds. Inside, your truth festers. Inside, your voice begins to wither. And eventually, you don't even recognize yourself anymore. You wonder why you're tired all the time, why life feels dull, why your relationships feel hollow. It's because you've outsourced your identity. You've delegated your value to other people's approval. And that contract? It's void. Let this be the moment you reclaim your name. You don't need a reason to set a boundary. You don't need permission to rest. You don't need evidence to justify your enoughness. Your worth is not a debate, it is a fact. And facts do not beg. The philosophers of ancient Greece believed in the concept of Udemonia, a life of flourishing alignment and inner fulfillment. But flourishing isn't found in approval. It's found in integrity. And integrity means wholeness. So ask yourself, what part of me have I rejected in order to be loved? Was it your assertiveness, your sadness, your creativity, your joy? It's time to call those parts home. No more apologizing for your boundaries. No more shrinking for the comfort of others. No more mistaking tolerance for love. You were not born to be liked. You were born to be real. And realness will always offend those who benefited from your compliance. You may lose some people along the way. That is true. But what you gain, peace, power, and presence, is worth far more than 1,000 shallow connections. Because once you know who you are, once you stop editing yourself to fit broken environments, something remarkable happens. You start attracting people and places where you belong, not just fit in. Relationships shift, conversations deepen, energy changes. You're no longer operating from desperation. You're grounded, whole, calm. And that kind of presence? It demands respect without saying a word. But let's not sugarcoat this. Change is hard. Growth hurts. And sometimes healing feels lonelier than the pain you left behind. But that is the path. The philosopher Rainer Maria Rilke once said, "The only journey is the one within." So let this be your beginning of saying yes only when you mean it, of asking for what you need without guilt, of walking away when your soul feels starved, of refusing to live a life that requires you to betray yourself. You may falter, you may backslide. That's okay. Self-respect is not a one-time act, it's a practice. Each no you speak is a brick. Each truth you tell is a beam. Each boundary you set is a wall. And before long, you'll have built a house inside yourself that no one can burn down. You will no longer fear being alone, because you will no longer be a stranger to yourself. You will speak with authority, not because you're louder, but because your voice comes from a place of rootedness. You will stand in rooms without needing to perform. You will know, without question, that your existence is not up for negotiation, and from that place, you won't just receive respect, you'll radiate it. So here is your invitation. Stop waiting. Stop hoping someone else will give you permission to be who you are. No one is coming to rescue you, but you can rescue yourself. And when you do, the world around you will shift. Not because they've changed, but because you have. Let this be the moment you stop performing and start living. Let this be the moment you whisper the one thing you were never taught to say. I matter, just as I am, and I no longer need to prove it. If this resonated with you, if it stirred something inside you that's long been asleep, don't ignore it. That stirring is your truth waking up. This journey isn't about ego. It's about essence. It's not about power over others. It's about power within. And if you're ready to reclaim that power, to step beyond guilt, fear, and approval, this is your first step. Thank you for being here, for choosing growth over comfort, for choosing truth over silence. If you found this valuable, consider subscribing and joining this space where we explore the deepest questions of life, meaning, and the self. Your respect begins with your reflection. And that reflection, it starts now.